Having someone upgrade your laptop hard drive or RAM, or having them fix your device can be an expensive process. But usually, this is simply a matter of replacing an old or broken module by unplugging one and plugging in the new one. The hard part is working out how to open the damn thing, as someone's had the bright idea to glue everything shut and not provide any access panels. So, let me show you how easy it is to open up these sealed devices and fix them yourself. Hi and welcome to Bytes and Bits. A lot of modern technology these days, sort of like your sort of laptops and tablets and so on, they look as if they are completely impossible to actually get into and to sort of either upgrade them or modify them or repair them or whatever. So here I have a laptop. So this is a normal sort of style of laptop there. This is one of these sort of tablet computers, which attaches a keyboard on the bottom here. And again, if you look around it, there are no screws to get this thing open. And what it actually is then is this actual screen here is physically glued onto this casing. So this is the sort of the general sort of casing for it, and this screen is physically glued in there, and you have to get that off before you can actually get inside. So say you wanted to just simply upgrade the hard drive on this, or upgrade RAM or something like that. So all things that can really help bring an older machine back to life, or just give you some extra features in your machine. This iPad here, let me just get this iPad out. So this machine has died. It is no longer charging. So there's only really one of two things that was probably going to be with this. It's either going to be the charging port is not working, or the battery needs replacing. And of course, if you take this along to Apple, they're basically going to tell you just to buy a new iPad. And of course, there's no problem with that, but the charging port costs £6, a new battery costs £40. So instead of spending £1,000 on a new iPad, and we could of course just simply try and replace that, and have an iPad working again for a much reduced price. So in this video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you that it is actually quite easy to open these devices up. Again, just taking your time and being very careful. You will need a couple of quite cheap tools just to make sure that you don't damage anything. But the process itself is pretty straightforward. So let's have a look and see how you open up these sealed screen cases. So most screens these days are actually bonded to the case. So I'll use this little device here because it's easier to sort of show around. So we have our actual sort of casing, which is this sort of area here. That really forms the back of the device. The electronics is then put into that back, and then it's all sealed up by placing this screen in front of it. And the screen basically is sort of a glass area here. There's an LCD panel behind that, and then there's usually sort of a stiffening plate behind that as well. So this generally sits in a little recess in the casing, and there'll be a little lip behind it in this area here, all the way running around it. And so the screen itself sits on that lip. There's a bead of glue which runs around the edge of it as well on that lip. So the actual screen then is bonded to that lip behind there. And that's really what we have to break to get the screen off. So the bead of glue, as I said, it'll be all the way around there at the very edge. So what we need to do is we need to be able to get something in behind there to try and break that layer of glue. And that's where we're going to need some tools. So first of all, the glue itself, when the glue gets hot, it will get a bit stickier, and then it'll be easier to actually get devices in behind that to break it. So we need something to actually heat up the glue around there. Now I've obviously got a heat gun here. So this allows me to use what is in effect a sort of fancy hair dryer. So I have here a heating element and a nozzle, but this of course gives me very directed heat, so we get a very fine tube of hot air coming out of this. Again, this also lets me then set the temperature for this. And really what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working around in various areas there. I'm trying to soften that glue. And then I will use some of these devices over here, which I'll show you in a second, to actually get in behind it and actually break that seal between the screen and the casing. That's how we do it. We sort of work around here. We get the glue all nice and warm. It starts to go a bit sticky and not solid. And then we can get these devices in. So that's the basic process that we're going to be going through. Now, obviously, you can use a hairdryer. A hairdryer will, of course, do the same job as getting that hot. But of course, this thing here, I'm going to be setting it up with air at around about sort of 150, 200 degrees centigrade, which of course your hairdryer, well, your hairdryer hopefully will not be using that temperature. Otherwise, it's going to burn the head off you. So that's what I'm going to do here to get it. So the hairdryer itself will do the same job, but it will probably take a little bit longer to get it to heat up, and you may not be able to get the whole thing heated up in one go. But once we get that heated up, then we start to use some of these devices. So these really are very thin pieces of plastic, and some of them are metal as well. And really what we're doing there is, as we heat up, we're going to be using these, and we're going to be trying to slip them in between the screen and the casing. So we'll basically be trying to sort of get this device in between there. As it goes in, it should bend round. These are very thin metal, and that should then let us, in effect, sort of cut through the glue as we go along. We'll also be using some suction cups, which I'll be getting out in a second, which will help us just to lever the glass away from the casing. But one of the things we're going to be very, very careful with here is, of course, if we simply lever up one corner and try and pull it off, this is a thin layer of glass. It will have a very thin metal sheet behind it probably, but that will not stop it from flexing as we pull around. So really we're not actually going to be pulling this screen off. We're going to be releasing it and then lifting it out. Okay, and it's very important that you get that idea. As soon as you try and force it, it will just simply crack across the front, and then you will have to do a full screen repair as well. Okay. So again, we've got some tools here. So we have these sort of edge tools, and these are sort of in varying degrees of stiffness and thickness, and that lets us then just get ourselves in there and getting an opening started. Once you get an opening started with the very thin tool, you can then start to use your thicker tools to get in. I'm also going to be using some of these little plastic cards, so it's just a very thin plastic card, and these are very good in effect sort of getting it in and getting round. And you can also, if we have a number of these, you can leave them in there to stop it falling back onto the glue, because again, we'll be heating up the glue, so it will go a bit sticky and a bit soft. If of course the piece goes back down again, it will re-glue itself. So we can use these to sort of just slip in there to hold any bits that we have levered off, hold them off so they don't glue back down again. So those are the tools then, and the technique that we're going to use. So let's have a go. So again, I am trying to repair this iPad Pro. So let's get this all heated up, get some of these sponges around the edge there, and see if we can get this screen off. So to start with then, I'm going to set up my heat gun. Now I've got this set to 175 degrees centigrade, which is quite hot, and obviously if you're using a hairdryer it's going to be a lot hotter than that. And really what I'm doing is I'm trying to get a bit of heat into the whole circumference of the iPad here. So I'm keeping it moving reasonably slowly, but not keeping it in one position at a time. And really the hot gun here is just really allowing me to get the heat into that a bit more quickly. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just going round this. So let me just speed through that. So now that we've got a little bit of heat into that whole sort of circumference, I'm really going to start concentrating on this one edge, so this right-hand edge here, because that's where I'm going to start levering up from. So I'm just going to use the heat gun just to get a bit more heat into that area. I'm just making sure that I actually cover both the edge and round the corners. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time just getting a bit of heat into that. Now that we've got a bit of heat into that edge, the glue should be nice and soft. So I'm going to get hold of one of my spudgers here, and I'm using one with a very thin metal blade. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to lever that in, so I'm in the middle of the long edge, because that's where there'll be less flex on the actual screen. I'm just trying to get that in between the casing edge and the screen itself. So I've got it in there, and then I'm just dragging it down. I'm not pushing it in too far, as it might damage some of the components down behind the screen. But just putting it in a wee bit there, and then just trying to break that glue seal along that edge. And then you can see sort of we're just moving it down there with just the tip inside, and just coming down, breaking that glue. Again, you'll find certain areas will come off a lot easier than others. When I get to the corner there, again, I'm being very careful here not to pull the spudger up, which would put sort of stress or sort of bending stress on that glass. And it's really just taking your time. I said the most important factor here is to not rush this. If you find that you have a little bit here, as you can see, where it's a little bit stiff, again, just try and ease it through. And there you can see we just broke through some of the glue there and around this corner here. So it's really, as I say, just take your time, never force it, never try and pull the side up to try and lever it off. And once we've got a certain amount of glue undone there, what I'm doing, I'm going to use one of these little plastic strips then, and really just putting that in there, just so I can hold those areas open so that they don't then sort of just, as I try to move around to the rest of the screen, that they don't then, of course, close and re-glue themselves. So really all we're doing now is we're going to repeat this process round the other 4 edges. So again, I'm going to heat up this second edge here, making sure I go around the corners a bit. And just repeat that exact same process. So I've now pretty much gone round the entire circumference of the iPad, and we should now have broken all of the sort of the glue seals around each edge. So again, I'm putting in these plastic strips just to make sure that we've got that all done. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to basically sort of use these plastic strips and just the thing to just really just very, very gently try and lift the whole thing up. So again, we've broken all the glue, so there will still be a couple of little bits holding it on. But again, we can use the plastic strips just to very gently ease that. And again, I'm making sure that any bits that are stuck, I'm not forcing it. I'm really just using the plastic strips again, just to break any extra bits off those glue seals. Now, as you're doing this, you do want to make sure again that you still don't push the plastic strips in too far to sort of damage components inside there. But eventually, as you work around, you should find that eventually the whole display unit does become loose from the glue. Now, this is where you do have to be very careful as well. These display units obviously are connected to the circuitry inside, so there are going to be some ribbon cable connections between it and the base of your iPad or whatever device you're opening up. So if I take these bits out here and just gently lever it open a wee bit, hopefully you'll be able to see inside there. If I can just get this open a wee bit more. Again, just being very careful. Let me see if I can get you a better look at that. So that's the screen just gently levered off now. And as you can see, at either end of that, there are some little ribbon cables which connect that screen to the circuitry underneath. And we're going to have to get those off before we can actually remove the screen, or at least open it up enough so that we can sort of flip it back on itself to get to the components that we want to work with. So all I'm doing here is just putting some of these plastic strips in the corners, so that will just keep the whole unit from resealing itself. So I'm going to work on this shortest cable first, because there's just enough room for me to slide the screen to one side so that I can get to the actual place where it connects to the circuit board. And really at the moment, it's just really then a matter of working out how to get each of these off. So this particular one on this iPad is behind a little panel. And sorry, I obviously got my hand in the way as I'm doing it here. But there's 4 little tiny screws that I need to undo to get that little panel off, which then lets me get to the actual ribbon cable connector. And a lot of the connectors on these sorts of devices are little sort of like press stud connectors. So they actually just push together and clip together that way. But let me get this cover off, and then I'll show you where we get the connector off. So with all those off then, I can just have a look at how that connector is plugged in. So it's got a little sort of clamping mechanism over the top of it there, which we screwed down. So underneath that, you can just about see there is a little sort of header device there. So I just need to prise that off. So I'm just using a little lever here. And this is where it's useful to have a range of bits of tools for this, sort of tweezers, these little sort of plastic levers, and a good set of screwdrivers. None of these are massively expensive, but it's worth having them just so that you can actually get access and have the proper tool for the proper job here. And again, I'll put links down in the description for all the bits and pieces that I use. So with that really short ribbon cable off, on this particular device then, if I just lever it up, the second ribbon cable there, you can see there's enough slack in that for me not to have to actually remove it. So I can just simply get the screen and just flip it round on itself. And I now have access to pretty much all the bits that I need to on here. Obviously, if you did need to get some other bit more access, you would have to take off that second ribbon cable as well. So hopefully that should give you enough information and the confidence to have a go at sort of opening up one of these devices. As I say, it's not that hard. It just takes a little bit of time and care, and don't rush it. And just make sure you do use some proper tools. And again, as I said, I will put some links in the description down below to the tools that I've been using in this video. Again, the spudgers and so on, do please use those instead of, well, please just do not use a screwdriver and do not use knives and so on. Those are a lot thicker and a lot harsher than any of the devices I've been using. Again, the nice sort of gentle, almost like foil spudger, and then those plastic cards, which are really nice and soft, and those will just make sure that you don't damage either the edge of the screen. Again, if you're sticking a screwdriver in there, you're going to crack the edge of your screen, and as you start to pry it open, it's going to smash the whole thing. So you really can do a lot of damage by using the wrong tools. Heat gun then, obviously if you're going to be doing this a lot, which I guess you probably won't be, then a heat gun's worth investing in. Otherwise, a good hairdryer, or whatever hairdryer you've got, actually, it just helps soften that glue, which just makes it a bit easier to get them off. Other than that then, obviously a good set of screwdrivers. So if you are going to be doing some of this work, the screws you find inside these devices, especially phones and tablets, they do have a range of very small screws. Some of them have different sort of heads on them. So a good multi-purpose screwdriver set is very well worth having in your toolkit. And not just for this, but really for anything. And again, I'll put links down below to the ones I was using. As regards then, once you've finished doing all that, closing it back up again. So this one here, this is the iPad that I had opened up in that video. I just simply put the screen back on there. The glue that was there was still secure enough to actually hold it back in. So this is just simply me putting it back on, just gently pressing it round all the way, and that really is fine. If you find that it's not quite sticking down correctly, then you do need to get hold of some specialist glue. There's a special glue which is used for this task. And again, I'll put links to this and what you're looking for in the description. And these come with a little fine nozzle, little sort of pin nozzle on them. Let me just put that back in there. And you simply then, you would want to clean off as much of the old glue as you can if that's no longer sticky, and then just run a bead of this around there. So you'll be able to see where the glue was in the beginning. So just replace the glue with a new bead of the specialist glue, and then just put the screen back on, and that should then seal it up nicely. So I hope you find this video useful. Do please have a go if you feel confident to do that. As I say, it's not that hard, and once you get inside it, a lot of the actual components then are modules which you just simply unplug one module and plug the new one in. You're not really going to be trying to fault find individual circuitry. You'll really be looking at replacing modules. Or say, if you want to upgrade the hard drive or RAM in your laptop, then obviously those are just simple unplug one, plug a new one in, and off you go. So hope you found that useful. If you did, please do click that like button and subscribe to the channel for lots more sort of making, electronics, gaming, modding videos. I look forward to seeing you again very soon, and bye for now. For more games programming, electronics projects, and retro gaming, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and visit my website.